You're in the right place at the right time, stretching from the distant spaceports of Batu, Tatooine, and Vijin, all the way to the bright center of the galaxy at Imperial Center, slamming into your holo projector like a supercharged nanoparticle of coaxium. This is the Star Wars Unfiltered podcast. I'm John, he's Jason, and we're here to bring you your needed dose of Star Wars film, TV, book, comic, gaming, and collecting news. The date is March 11th, 2022. And we have a slew of great topics for you today. We're going to be talking about our review for the Book of Boba Fett, episodes 5 through 7, I believe. That's where we left off from last time. And then we're also going to be talking about the Obi-Wan Kenobi teaser trailer that dropped just a couple days ago. So exciting times. How was your last few days or week, Jason?
Good. Nothing exciting happening except for Obi-Wan and
Yeah.
everything that has entailed since.
Yeah. Social media is like blown up.
I'm
It's
really
the
enjoying the
hot thing.
memes.
The memes are really good, I have to say. I expect no less from Star Wars fans. We knew this trailer was just days away anyway, like, because there hadn't been much promotion leading into this other than there was a poster that went all over social media like about a month ago. I think it was the day after the Book of Boba Fett ended that this promo poster went out. But I say poster, but these days it's just an image. I don't think you can go buy a poster.
Yeah, and because you wouldn't go anywhere and see it, right? Maybe you'd see
Yeah.
it on a bus stop, possibly.
Yeah.
But and the other thing is, you see so many like fan-made posters and stuff that are really good.
Yes.
That it's hard to know, and especially on social media, it's hard to figure out, okay, is this official or is this just a fan-made thing? You know, there was something that happened in the last week that, you know, it somewhat relates to Star Wars. The final patch for this current expansion of WoW came out, and man, they have completely fucked up that lore and continuity, like worse than Star Wars has been. I would say it's amazing how bad it is.
Well,
and now I have that to be angry about.
Yeah,
Now I have that to be
more
angry
than one
about
thing.
instead of
More than
just
one
Star
thing.
Wars.
Well, maybe it's a good thing that you're not a Robotech fan, because let me tell you about fucked continuity, my friend. But that's a whole other topic. There's some franchises that have really messed up continuity, and when I hear about it, I look back at Star Wars and I'm like, oh, you're not that bad. Even when you're bad, you're not that bad. You know, like
Right.
there's still people that. What matters is there's people in charge that care, and there's people in charge that are paid enough to care. That's the thing. Some of these other companies, like for example, Robotech is owned by Harmony Gold. Harmony Gold doesn't have a lot of money, so it's like you could kind of see where it trickles down and it doesn't do much good. But yeah, that's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Continuity.
So anyway, that's something new for me to be pissed
Yeah,
off about. First
yeah.
it was Star Trek, then it was Star Wars, now it's Warcraft. And I'm not even that invested in the Warcraft lore, but
Right.
it's
It
still
was more of a gameplay thing for
it
you,
did
right?
make sense at least.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, for sure.
how's your last month been since?
Yeah, we haven't recorded for a while. Just keeping up on various things, and my TV viewing has kind of shifted around. Like I finished, obviously, like I think it was earlier mid-January. I finished Breaking Bad. That was really good. I was glad to get that under my belt.
Did
And
you
then
like that machine gun in the trunk setup you
that
had?
was pretty badass. That was pretty awesome. I was just glad to get that series over with, because I was afraid I was going to accidentally spoil myself, like at some point, and amazingly, no one really leaked anything to me. So I saw
Well,
it and loved it.
it's funny with spoilers to things, like if it's very shortly after something has come out, like it's everything's a minefield, right? Because everybody's talking about it. But if you
Yeah,
get far enough removed from when that show or that movie was released, you can kind of avoid stuff just by not paying attention and digging for things, because just, you know, there's not a lot of people talking about.
that is true. Although in the case of Breaking Bad, it was still so loved by so many people, and it would come up in conversation if I was like at someone's house. And that's where I would start to worry. And I'd start whenever it would come up, and Oh, I love that show. That was so good, and, it was like 10 years ago, that it
Well,
ended or
then
whatever.
then you just have to, like, be like, "Hey, hey, spoilers, don't say anything." So
Yeah, exactly. So, I instead of just repeating that excuse so long now for so many years, I was just like, "I need to just watch it." And
mhm.
because I had first started watching it in 2011, I tried again in 2016, and then it was last year I finally cranked it out. So,
I
uh
have a buddy I have a because I picked it up, in during the, like, the 5th season's mid-season break, so I
mhm.
binged everything up to that point, and then I watched it as it came out, and, I remember me and, one of my friends were trying to get my friend Jeremiah to watch it, and he tried watching the first few episodes, and he couldn't watch it because he said it just sounded like a married couple bitching at each other the whole time.
Which it pretty much is.
Yeah, I know, right? It's but, yeah, he never, powered through because it does get
Continued.
really good.
It gets
It
amazing.
gets past that bitchiness.
Yeah, I would say, like, pretty much by the end of season 1, beginning of season 2, that's where I really got hooked in. But, sometimes shows take a while. Sometimes it's a couple episodes, sometimes it's right away. It just depends, and the Book of Boba Fett is a good example of that as we get into it later in this, episode.
Mhm.
But yeah, so there's a couple news items I wanted to mention. In recent weeks, we've lost two pretty key Star Wars authors to the early EU. Not super early, but the 90s, like reboot EU. Uh, Dave Wolverton passed away, and a lot of people obviously remember him from The Courtship of Princess Leia, which
Mhm.
is a very early on in the Bantam books. It was like right after the Thrawn trilogy ended, and I think it came out just a few months after the Truce at Bakura. So it was like the fourth or fifth Star Wars book in the Bantam series. And
Mhm.
he was the author of that. But then he also did the first book in the Jedi Apprentice series, The Rising Force, in 1999. And then he had written some Star Wars Missions books, which are the little game books that came out through 97, 98. I think he wrote like maybe three or four of those, maybe even more, because I've read some, but not all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Wolverton, very, very key guy. And this is the guy that created Dathomir. I mean, talk about a planet. And we mentioned this on our last Fett review in passing as this came up. But again, just for the sake of completionists here, Dathomir. I mean, it's amazing how such a planet that was just kind of one setting from one book and then kind of half forgotten became expanded into this massive thing in the new canon,
Really
like with
big.
George and like, yeah, the witches, and even now the whole riding of the Rancors thing
Yeah.
that goes back, and because that was not part of the new canon until the Book of Boba Fett mentioned it with Danny Trejo's character. So yeah, Dave Wolverton passed away, and then Tom
And you know what? You
Veach.
know what sucks? I
Uh-huh.
just realized he wouldn't have been able to get to see that because he died before that episode came
Yeah,
out.
I know. It was just like a few weeks earlier.
That's really man.
Yeah. So then we lost Tom Veach also, who was the creator of Dark Empire, which was the first Dark Horse comic that was Star Wars in 91, 92. And I mean that's massive just by itself because he's the first guy to bring Palpatine back. There was a lot
Yeah,
of key things.
unfortunately for him, he got to see what they did with his ideas.
Yeah, Rise of Skywalker. Um, but Dark Empire was, and I had reread it again just a couple weeks ago, my trade paperback of it, to kind of refresh my memory on it. And it was massive. I remember at the time seeing a image from it in comic shop news. They would sometimes show panels from the latest comics, and I remember the image of Luke using the Force to bring down an AT-AT Walker
Mhm.
with just the Force, and I was like, "Whoa, Luke is so much more powerful now." It's like
Mhm.
way beyond Return of the Jedi, and yeah, that was a good memory of when that came out. I remember the Dave Dorman paintings for the covers of those, and yeah, the whole idea. I mean, Luke turning to the dark side, the Emperor coming back. it was big stuff. And then he had Dark Empire 2 and then Empire's End. And that was pretty much what Tom Veitch is mostly known for, work those comics with Cam Kennedy doing the artwork. But then he also uh, did the first Tales of the Jedi collection, and created the planet Onderon, which is then used in the Bad Batch and Clone Wars and all these things. That's where Saw Gerrera is from. And and then I worked with Kevin J. Anderson on the Dark Lords of the Sith comic series, which was the prequel story that explained Exar Kun and how he went to Yavin 4, and basically it was setting up Kevin's Jedi Academy trilogy. But yeah, I mean, this guy was, I remember back in the '90s, like those are the comics everyone was talking about. So
He would be like the Zahn for comics, as far
yeah,
as really getting the ball rolling on
absolutely.
Star Wars comics in the 90s.
Yeah, and there's some interesting, uh, kind of almost like not I want to say urban legend, but like rumor and kind of backstories about him and Zahn, because what happened is they were both writing their stories at exactly the same time.
Hmm.
Lucasfilm wanted to reboot a new continuity for Star Wars, and so because Dark Empire was originally going to come out under Marvel in the late '80s, like I think it was contracted in '88 or '89, and Marvel had this imprint, subsidiary company called, I think it was Epic,
Hmm.
and it was going to come out under that. And but then it got, there was the whole Dark Horse thing. Anyway, Zahn was also contracted around that time to write his trilogy, and somebody in Lucasfilm or something had had them contact each other so that they could work out any story things that might need to, basically smooth everything over, just like
Right.
anything these days. And I guess Zahn was already had his trilogy plotted or something, or at
Hmm.
least the first book. And they were like, well, there you guys are giving Leia and Han different numbers of kids. Like there's twins in Zahn's books, and then Veach wants to give him just one kid.
Hmm.
And then, they asked Zahn, can you change some things in your book? And he's like, no. He was like, no, you guys do your thing, but this is my thing. It's set in stone and whatever.
Right.
And that's kind of known for years, that there was this beef between Zahn and Veach because of that. And if you look at the continuity between Dark Empire and the Thrawn trilogy, you could see that there had to be some smoothing over, like in the opening text of Dark Empire. It kind of explains, like like in other words, where's Jason and Jaina in Dark Empire?
Right.
They had to explain that they were off on a safe world, being taken care of by Winter or something.
Right. Yeah.
So
I don't
yeah,
recall, because I've read about that before, but I don't remember if it came out of like interviews with Veach. Did he talk about that?
I think he did. And I know Zahn, when it did come up in interviews, he was respectful in how he worded things, but he was very quickly dismissive of the subject, like, oh, they did their thing and I did my thing. He was very like succinct about it.
Yeah.
But I always got that feeling that they that they had some kind of issue early on. And what's funny is like, and I think it's because Zahn at the time wasn't used to working with other authors. He was used to doing his own story, and then that
Right.
was it. But what's funny is Zahn then later created a rapport with Mike Stackpole, and they collaborated fine. And Stackpole
Yeah,
had
but
done
I
things.
mean, Stackpole's another, book author.
He's
There
another
could,
military sci-fi guy
well,
too.
because there could be, uh, Zahn or anyone who's writing novels could, kind of look down on comic books, possibly,
Yeah, yeah.
as far
I
as,
think
and
there was some of that.
I think even, the EU in general is a lot easier to digest, as far as when they had like crazy stuff or really,
Hmm.
really, subpar stories and books, um, because you could just be like, well, it's not the movies, it's not
Yeah,
it's not George canon, right? Because there was
yeah.
always George canon, and then there was
Hmm.
the books and everything, and so even the comic book stuff, like the crazy stuff in Dark Empire, because I didn't, we didn't have the internet and social media like we had back then, or back then like we do now. Um,
Hmm.
I was kind of surprised to read that some people didn't like Dark Empire because of
Yeah,
how
yeah.
crazy it was.
And I mean, and
Um,
also he was the first guy to bring back Boba Fett too.
Yeah.
In the same comic. And actually, when I do reread it, there are aspects of it that are really cheesy and really like they just come quickly and then they're gone. Like it doesn't have enough time to
Yeah,
like a novel
and you know,
to.
part of all that, even the any sort of like disagreement over continuity and stuff back then, it was the Wild West of,
Hmm.
the EU and all
Yeah,
that at the time. It's not they didn't really get their shit together until the New Jedi Order, as far as having a really hard set
yeah,
continuity
robust continuity. Yeah.
and overarching story. So
Yeah, it wasn't really until the Del Rey era came back in 99, 2000. Yeah, yeah, I agree. But nevertheless,
anyway,
Tom Veitch.
yeah, he was huge. I was always a big fan of Executor Cedrus, or
Hmm.
Cedrus as I called him until until the audio dramas came out. Um, I even had one of my X band uh, handles was Executor Cedrus.
You might have to explain what X-Band
I'm
is
not
for
explaining that. That's
for the kids out there.
online gaming on 16-bit consoles.
There you go.
The stuff of
Yeah,
dreams.
it was kind of amazing because it came out, I think, in late 94 or 95, and to
Uh-huh.
do that back
I'll,
then
I'll
was
tell you
pretty
what was
amazing.
amazing. The phone bills. A lot of pissed off parents when they got that first
Yeah,
phone bill.
yeah, no kidding.
Um,
Good
but
times. So
yeah,
you
it's
you were
that's
you were Cedrus.
yes, I was.
Yeah,
That's all. That's all I have to say. But I like I said, I was surprised there were people that didn't like Dark Empire,
yeah.
because I really liked it. As cheesy as parts of it could be and stuff,
Hmm.
because it was just comic
Yeah,
books. To me, it was like,
yeah.
okay, this is like C tier canon,
Hmm.
where books would be B and then movies would be A.
Right, exactly.
So,
But yeah, Dark Empire had really great artwork, and Cam Kennedy's art
uh-huh.
really the shading and the colors. It had the feel of the movies in that way, like those neon kind of reds and the shades of blue and everything. It was because the old Marvel comics in the 80s had that kind of bright coloring, and it was
Mhm.
newsprint, and it just didn't kind of clashed, in
Yeah.
retrospect, but Dark Empire brought the movie feel again.
Yep.
So
Yep. They were
yeah,
really good.
yeah, good times.
Rest in
Tom
peace,
Veitch,
Veach and Wolverton.
indeed. So the Book of Boba Fett. We reviewed the first like 4 episodes on the last episode. Actually, I think it was 2 podcasts ago
Hmm.
that we did
That's
that about
that's when it
mid-January.
was the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, now
Little did we
it's
know.
it's the book of everyone but Boba Fett. No, it's it's the Return of the Mandalorian. Um,
Well,
Actually, that is the title of the episode
they
that
they
came.
they didn't really hide the fact that this was Mandalorian season 2.5. This is a like a spin-off.
Well, they insinuated that yes, it was going to be taking place in the same time period, but the title was the Book of Boba Fett,
Well,
and so I
hey,
figured when Fett left in Mandalorian, we
I'm
wouldn't be seeing
I'm
Mandalorian.
not gonna argue that point. I thought, hey, maybe we'll see Mandalorian. I didn't think there'd be two whole episodes where Boba Fett was lucky to get a cameo in his own show.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
This opens up a whole can of worms that Star Wars fans up until this week have basically been um, foaming at the mouth over for pretty much most of the end of January and all of February. So we're just now getting to this whole thing, and we don't need to like beat it down. But
no, for sure. I mean, part of the reason I think that just that reaction is one of the reasons we weren't quick to review it.
yeah, yeah, it's just like what else can be said? It's just. Yeah, it's an
It is
interesting
what it
thing,
is.
but it is what it is. As tired as that phrase is, it kind of sums everything up. Long story short, this episode, which was called "The Return of the Mandalorian," actually, chapter 5, Fett doesn't even show up. It's all Mando, and we get at least we get a quick intro to Mandalorian. It doesn't take its time. Just boom, he walks into the frozen meat
Yeah,
section.
I thought Rocky was going to show up.
I I almost thought the
he's going
Predator was gonna
into
show up with Danny Glover,
oh yeah, with yeah, Gary
with Gary
Busey.
Busey.
I forgot
So,
I forgot about that scene. That was supposed to
yeah,
be Dutch.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
originally supposed to be Dutch, and they couldn't get Arnold for
It
that
was.
part. Anyway.
There is a lot of characters that could have walked in, but Mandalorian, Din Djarin himself walked in, and he takes out a Klatooinian guy for a bounty, pulls out the dark saber, which was kind of badass. It was badass for 30 seconds until he sliced his own thigh with it.
Yeah.
What do you think that's all about? He says it gets heavier as he uses it more. I've not really thought too much about this other
Well, I
than
mean,
in
if
passing.
this was an
What is that?
RPG, if this was an RPG, he just needs to put more points into strength or something.
Clearly.
I don't know.
But it
It's going to be something. They're setting up stuff with. I mean, in this episode, they set up the whole thing where one handling the dark saber is difficult, which
yeah.
we kind of knew that like handling a lightsaber should be difficult because there's no weight to it. The
Right.
dark
Like
saber is kind of
this
opposite, which is interesting.
yeah, it's
Um,
funny that it's heavy, and it makes me wonder if there really is some kind of force or mind connection in to the handle, you
Maybe. I
know?
mean, he's going on some, spirit journey to the pools on Mandalore or something, right? They
That
mentioned
was
that.
what the armorer said, that he can
Hmm.
only redeem himself by going to the caves of Mandalore to fight a was it mythosaur? Or maybe it's some other beast. I
I
don't
don't
know. It
remember
was
that. I thought he just had to go some pools
oh, maybe it
in the
was
cave.
pools.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That was
he
like a
needs to
month
wash
ago.
himself in the pools.
Um,
Uh,
I
yeah.
mean, the meme for that was great. I think he should have just been like, "Nah, I didn't take off my helmet." Like,
Yeah, I
how would
know.
she know?
Exactly I've mentioned this many times, but this is what bugs me about organized religion. It's people like this that are so hardcore with their very specific tenets, and it's like just look, just lie. It's no big deal. Clearly, yeah, you ate some Cheetos. You took off your helmet, you ate some Cheetos. No big deal. He's
Well,
still a Mandalorian.
the funny thing is I think in the meme that I saw, it's like Jin talking to Boba, and Boba's like, "You've got the dark saber. Just tell her she's not a Mandalorian anymore." Like,
I know, right? Yeah, seriously.
Um,
Uh, yeah, so it actually was really cool to see the armor again, as well as Paz Vizsla, the kind of hefty Mandalorian voiced by John Favreau.
which
Because
I'm surprised
yeah,
that Favreau's not actually in the suit. You know what I mean?
I know that's what everyone keeps thinking, but I think it's some other body actor.
Right.
And but yeah, and this guy is the direct descendant of the Vizsla that was in Rebels and Clone Wars. I'm trying to remember his name, but it's like his family
That was the
member
guy
that
voiced by.
John Favreau.
Wait, was
Yeah,
it? Was he?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of
In
somebody else. The other guy that was voiced by the guy from Rome and Grey's Anatomy, I
I
think.
don't
I don't remember his
recall
name.
off.
It's been years since I watched Rebels, so
Yeah, yeah. No, John Favreau did he I know he did the Clone Wars guy, and I'm pretty sure it was the same one in Rebels. But
I'm probably thinking of another character.
yeah, because then they end up in Rebels. They end up on Concord Dawn, which is the moon of Mandalore or whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, and so Mando has this whole thing where he has to prove himself, and they explain more of the lore of the dark saber. I think for the sake of the audience that probably didn't see Rebels or Clone Wars, really, because the people are like, "What's this thing?" I mean, obviously they learned about it in the Mandalorian, but they have
Hmm.
to kind of reboot the exposition for a lot of these new viewers, that are watching on Disney Plus. But yeah, so this whole episode was him, and then he
They don't explain
basically
what like did Bo-Katan just fuck off? You know, she just like,
yeah, yeah,
oh, I guess you got the dark saber. I'm
yeah, I
gonna
know.
go
I
now.
presumably we're going to see more of that when season 3 starts of The Mandalorian, but at least he did mention that Moff Gideon was in a New Republic
Right,
prison or something like
man,
that.
she must be pissed.
Yeah, no kidding. Um, but yeah, so then he has a duel with Vizsla,
Hmm.
because Vizsla is all, he's like a jock. He's like, I want that,
Yeah,
like give it
right.
to me.
Of course.
So you knew what was going to happen, and I there was a part of me that thought Mando might lose. He almost did a
Yeah, that would
couple
have been
times.
interesting. If Ryan Johnson was directing it, he would have had Mando lose. He would have
Ouch.
subverted our expectations.
Well, that's what I would have done. So I guess I'm the new Ryan Johnson. But yeah, so then that happens, and then he gets shamed because he admits that he took his helmet off, even after he won the battle with Vizsla. So then he's kind of outcast from, and this is all taking place on this big
Oh,
ringed
he's
space
outcast from
station.
the two Mandalorians that are
Yeah,
left
oh
from
no.
his clan or whatever.
Darn it, you guys. That sucks. And then he just
Guess I'll
leaves and
guess
does
I'll
his
go
own
take
thing.
the dark saber back to Mandalore.
And he just takes his helmet off right away. He's like, whew, I've been waiting for months to take that
I know,
thing
right?
off. So, yeah, then he hops onto a transport going to Tatooine. And by the way, throughout this series, we've been seeing these RX series pilot droids like in different roles. We saw that one as a car dealer in Mos Espa, and now we see one that's just like taking the luggage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a nice little callback to Star Tours. I
They're
just
doing
love
everything
seeing.
but flying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw one in Rebels that was actually a pilot,
Right.
but
Yes.
yeah, it's just a treat to see them. But they need to get Paul Rubens to voice one again. That's what it would really be the callback. But he goes to Tatooine. He meets up with Pelimato, and I guess he's just kind of like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, so he goes there. So they're friends, and so oh, he was gonna get a ship. That was the thing.
Right.
So because he had the Razor Crest blow up at the end of season 2, and
We learn way too much about Jawa
Pelimato's.
love. Jawa love.
Oh man, the memes when that episode dropped were really good. It was like dating game memes where she's
Uh-huh.
sitting on the chair and there's like 3 Jawas on the other
Uh-huh.
side, and
I it's like a month later, over a month later. I still don't know what to think about that.
I still don't know either. I mean,
I
the
don't know if I
whole
should just be disgusted or I should think it's funny. I really don't know. I'm still
yeah.
processing that information.
I know, and we found out that they're furry underneath there, which kind of makes sense because I don't know if it was the original novelization. The original concept was that they were rats, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
rats under the hoods, and I
Yeah.
think that Alan Dean Foster's original novelization kind of said something. He called them rodent-like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that could go back to that. So like, at least Story Group is keeping track of these details for us.
I'm sure. I'm sure they are.
Anyway, long story short. Oh, and we see also a little BD unit that is in the hangar with her, who's helping her catch this Womp Rat that gets in along with her other droids.
Mm-hmm.
And the BD unit, he was, of course, from Jedi Fallen Order. And I don't think that droid type had been seen outside of that game. So when people saw that, there was a lot of game fans that were flipping out.
Mm-hmm.
I was too. That was really cool. So, and then we see R5D4 again. It's always really cool to see him because he lives with Pelimato, I guess. And yeah, so Mando's going to get this new ship. She says she has a Naboo N1 starfighter. He doesn't really want it at first, and then with some persuading, they end up working on it. What did you think of this scene?
Yeah. It was cool. Um, it just felt like filler.
Hmm.
It's just they're tugging on my member berries with the whole
Hey,
Naboo
doesn't that
Starfighter
feel
thing.
good?
Hey, I didn't say it doesn't feel good. No, I mean it
Yeah.
was cool. It's just you know, in a I guess it would be cool in a Mando season, but
Hmm.
when we're limited to 7 episodes of Boba Fett, and then this whole episode has no Boba Fett, and it's just like, oh, okay, what's Boba Fett doing? Like,
Yeah.
is he learning to
No,
ride the Rancor? Like,
I know. All they needed was, when Mando was walking through the space station at the beginning of the episode, it was very slow paced and very like, just kind of like
it's
soaking in
cool.
the atmosphere.
There's nothing wrong
But
with it. There,
what they could have done is trimmed some of that a little bit
it's a very
and
good
then just had a
episode.
had a
No,
cutaway,
eh,
had a cutaway to Fett,
it's a very good episode. It's shot really well. I like
It's
the
just not
episode.
it's just not part of the Book of Boba Fett.
Right. That's all. But I
That's
mean,
the only
it's
criticism.
fine. It's Naboo Starfighter. It give me flashbacks to alarm clock. My Anakin alarm clock.
Yeah.
the worst alarm clock in the world, where he's flying a Naboo starfighter.
Yeah, we
Um,
had to hear it on the road trip
they
every morning.
telegraphed the whole Grogu thing with that stinking little compartment,
The bubble,
modification.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like, okay, okay,
Well, it
we
was
all
an
know what's
RT
gonna
unit
happen.
bubble.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
know,
like it was no bubble.
no,
So,
I know, but like, what fits in there? A full-grown person doesn't fit in there. It's not like Boba Fett's gonna go, sit back there. It was
I
just,
hadn't thought of that.
they just telegraph. Yeah, it was too small. I mean, it's like,
Well, I initially thought that was where he'd keep his bounties, like if he was still, you know,
they're
continuing
they're
to
like
do
looking
that.
out the window. Oh shit. Yeah, I guess
uh,
he can't really bounty hunt that well in that thing.
that's why I was thinking that is the bounty hunter holder, but that was my initial thought.
Mm,
But of course, we're gonna see Grogu in it. But no, I was gonna say though about when they tested the N1 and it lifted off and then it flew through Vegas Canyon exactly where Anakin did during the pod
mm-hmm.
race.
That was cool.
That was really awesome. And what I loved is the little details, like when he zooms through that one section, kind of where you see a Womp Rat, and then you see that little gate that Anakin crashed through on
Mm-hmm.
that ramp or whatever. And I love that the pieces were still there after like
Right.
like 30 years, or no, it'd be like almost 40 years now.
Yeah. Nobody cleaned it up.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Anytime you see like locations from prior movies and media and stuff is really cool, especially the
yeah,
prequels, because
yeah.
those get shit on so much.
Right. It just kind of felt good to see the N1 just do a bunch of cool stuff. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was obviously kind of like a nostalgic kind of ball grab in a way, but still it felt good.
Yeah, it was fine.
Um
It was fine.
yeah, yeah. So
And then what? And then
uh
Fennec shows up, and then
yeah, yeah. I was not sure how, because when he and Finnick last saw each other, they were like he was trying to capture her basically, and they weren't like friends or anything. So it's funny that she shows up and it just like, he didn't have any hesitation really, but because of the Fett connection, who he likes and had worked with, I guess that's what smoothed things over. So, yeah, so that was Return of the Mandalorian. Um, and then the next episode was chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. So this episode was another really big deal, probably more than the
mm-hmm.
last one. And that was because, well, for one thing, we barely see Fett. At least we did see him in this one for
Yeah,
3 minutes.
Cobb Vanth
But
comes back.
oh yeah, Cobb Vanth.
That's the biggest deal, right?
That was the thing, and which obviously sets up his later post credit sequence at the end of the series
Right.
because that's what everyone wanted to see. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, well, we do see Cobb Vanth. He is the marshal of most Pelgo these days, or Freetown, and some Pikes are trying to take some spice, and he takes them out in a classic Western style shootout, which was very cool scene. I liked it, and it was almost exactly telegraphed from other westerns with the you know, pulling out the holster and even like the kind of hip shot, like holding the blaster low, like at the hip
Mm-hmm.
and shooting is like such a western kind of thing. So yeah, it was cool. But and I was glad to see Cobb Vanth again. I actually was, because with a lot of these series on Disney Plus, you don't know who's coming, who's going, who's contracted for one episode or more, and it's kind of confusing. But it was good to see Timothy Oliphant again.
Right. Yeah, I like him as Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, and then of course, you know, Din Djarin. He said at the end of the last episode, "There's one more thing I got to do before he meets up with Fett," and
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, he goes to the Yavin 4 Jedi Academy. No, it's not on Yavin 4. We don't know where it is still. But this is Luke's Jedi training area, or what's going to be that. And when Mando lands, he sees the beginnings of the construction of it with these construction droids that start building the stone structure that we later see burning in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, that's a hot
Um,
fire.
and but yeah, we see R2 and then he follows R2 and eventually we come to Luke. Uh what do you think of all this stuff?
Um, it was cool. I liked it. It was really cool seeing Ahsoka, um, with Luke and stuff.
That was
Obviously,
another big thing we didn't expect. It was
yeah.
just like, boom, she's there.
If it was a book, if this was like a novel in a series, you'd probably have a lot of scenes of them talking about his father and all that stuff. But we're not going to get that in like a TV show.
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
maybe just implied or whatever.
Hmm.
So it was cool. Again, it's I'd rather see Boba Fett, but
See,
they did.
that was the big criticism of this particular episode and this particular scene was that these are things that should be fleshed out and expanded in the Ahsoka series to give them the kind of reverence they deserve in their own thing
Yes,
instead of cutting in on Fett, and it's taking away from Fett and putting a big resonant thing that we love
it's
into of the wrong
it's
area.
possible that they will have those sorts of scenes in the Ahsoka series, and they'll have actually, they might time jump a little bit,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
literally,
maybe
um,
literally.
uh, so that they might address that in her series and have like kind of a prequel scene
Yeah,
or episode, or
right.
they did a great job on Luke. I think
He looks a
with
lot better than he did
yeah,
at
I
the end of
think with
season 2
with
of Mando.
not having to worry so much about the secrecy behind it and everything, that helped. Plus, they hired
Yeah.
the guy that did that. He did a bunch of deep fake stuff on YouTube. Um, he did one for Solo with Ford. He did a better version of Luke for Mandalorian from the
Mhm.
season finale. I don't remember his name from YouTube, but they hired that guy last year, I think in the summer or whatever. So
Yeah.
presumably that he's the reason it looks better, I would guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the shading and the way everything was just it looked amazing.
Yeah, we're getting closer to, being able to see Luke, as a fully developed real character, a young
Yeah,
Luke in a series, just in time for, you know,
the Thrawn
for
trilogy
all of
reboot.
us to just remember where it all leads down to the sequel trilogy,
Yeah,
and him
right.
sucking the milk from that teat and everything.
My favorite scene. Um,
I think that's my issue with this episode. It's like really cool, but it's like I don't know when you just think forward to like what happens in the sequel trilogy and stuff, and what's talked about in the sequel trilogy. It's like, oh yeah, great. He's building his academy, his Praxium, his Jedi Academy. Well, this is gonna get burned down in 15 or 20 years.
yeah.
Like, if you
Well,
know where the
this
story's
is
going, it's like it's not
well,
it's not that
I
exciting.
get what you're saying, Jason. However, it's the same for the prequel trilogy too. We already know what's going to happen, so it's the tragedy
Yeah,
of
but we
knowing.
always knew, like, that it was, we always knew
No,
the
I get what you're saying. You want more mystery. You want forward stories that we don't know the outcome to. I get it. But there is an element of tragedy when you do know, and that can also be exciting because then you can upend expectations in between in the middle, somewhere along the line, even though the end result is the same. But there's storytelling possibilities that could be exciting in there. Um,
yeah, we'll
by the way,
see.
that YouTuber is Shamook. It is Shamook. That's
Shimuk.
anyone wants to
Okay.
check out
Yeah.
his channel.
Yeah,
Just look
really
up
really good deep
Solo,
fakes. Deep fakes.
Solo, look up Solo and Deepfake, and he'll be like the first thing that pops up. So anyway, yeah, my one concern about the Luke scenes that I don't care for, and I wish they would just use Mark Hamill's voice and modulate it and change it and make it sound younger. Because when they use this AI to do the voice, it
Mhm.
sounds like a computer doing a voice in a certain kind of way. It's hard to explain. It's like
It's
the
the
there's
it's
some
the uncanny valley of audio.
of audio. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like and everything he says is very well modulated. Like it doesn't rise or fall in pitch like a real humans. Our voices waver,
Yeah.
and there's no wavering. There's this like very straight line kind of like tone to everything, and there's something about it that just it's like it just doesn't sound that
Well,
great, guys. Just hit
blame
Mark.
blame Mark. He's the one that started smoking, you know?
I know, right?
He
Um,
he's the one that got old.
yeah. Well,
I
like
don't
I
know. I
said,
mean, maybe it's something that'll just get better and better as they're able to
it probably
develop the
will.
technology and stuff.
Yeah,
So
it probably will. But like I said, they for Forces of Destiny, Mark voiced his Empire Strikes Back self for one of the animated things, and it sounded pretty darn good. So, with that plus the audio trickery, you could make someone sound young again.
yeah.
So,
Anyway,
anyway,
so the scenes are really cool. I have problems, like I said, I have problems with the bittersweetness of it, of knowing where this is going and stuff. And if the sequel trilogy was a masterpiece, it would be different kind of bittersweet, a little bit, less bitter and more sweet. But with how they ended up, it's a little bit more bitter than sweet. Um,
yeah.
but then there's the whole issue of the choice um, that Luke gives Grogu, as far
Hmm.
as you're choosing the Jedi Order or um, you're choosing Mando,
Yeah.
Jin. Um, I don't know that that really makes sense. I don't know that Luke would be that adherent to the old Jedi way, you know?
And
Um,
I think a lot of that in old Jedi way, he's only just learning in the last 5 years because of finding lore and bits and pieces. So it's not like he would adhere super close to the prequel era Jedi.
right.
So
And I don't want to get into a big philosophical discussion about it, or a discussion about whether he would or wouldn't, because I don't know if there's blind spots in current uh I don't know if I have blind spots in current lore,
yeah,
current continuity that would indicate that,
yeah, yeah.
with Luke and his feelings. If he's talking to Ahsoka and she's, I don't know that she would really
She's not
adhere.
someone that would be. She's not
Right?
even
Yeah,
technically a Jedi.
I know, right? I mean, I don't know that she would be a hard ass on that.
Luke's the whole classic trilogy and how Luke became a Jedi on his own with obviously Yoda and Obi-Wan, but his unorthodox training perfectly flies in the face of the prequel era Jedi because he was trained at an older age, but also coming from a place of attachment. He was attached to his friends, emotional
Right.
attachment in a good way. And that's what allowed him to win, was that he wasn't afraid to
Well,
love
it
his friends.
it um his it's weird because his attachment to his friends almost killed him in Empire, right?
But
His
it's Anakin's attachment to his son that saved him too. So that
right,
should be
and
the
his
primary
attachment his
teaching
attachment to
moment.
his yeah, right. His attachment to his father um
Yes,
saved, everything and everyone at the end of
absolutely.
Return of the Jedi. That doesn't necessarily mean that attachments are still good, as far as if you're going to learn to be a Jedi or whatever, but um I don't know. Like I said, we don't need to get into a philosophical discussion about it. It's just weird that he would be such a hard ass about it. And, but, they kind of had to do it because otherwise, I guess Grogu's a burning pile of green goo and the flashbacks and the
I
Force
thought it
Awakens
was
otherwise.
I thought it was a good hook for the next episode so that the audience is like, "Oh, what's he going to choose?"
But we
And because
knew what he was going to choose because he had the stupid little pod in the starfighter.
I didn't. I thought he
Well,
was absolutely going to choose Mandalorian, but I didn't know for sure. It wasn't set in
Eh,
stone for me.
right. And then there's, of course, the issues with, like, okay, well, you spent 2 seasons getting Grogu to Luke, to the Jedi, and then you spent one episode rolling that back, basically.
Yeah.
There's an issue of, like, um, I guess, permanence to decisions in these stories,
Hmm.
maybe. I'm not sure how to describe it, but it's just odd, you know? It's just odd.
Yeah.
For it
Yeah.
to be at the end of Mandalorian season 2,
Yeah.
he gets Grogu to Luke and the Jedi. And then in Mandalorian season 3, episode 1, reset, he's back with Mando.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
It's going to be
weird.
confused. The casuals are going to be so confused that
Nah, they won't, because they're building it. The quote unquote normies and casuals, that they consume it just like they're going to consume Marvel, right? Marvel's built this thing to where you don't have to, but you kind of are. Um, lightly suggested to watch everything, right? They've built in this interconnected references and continuity that beg watching everything.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is though, yes, I get what you're saying, but in a year's time or 2 years from now, there's going to be people that put on The Mandalorian for the first time, and they're just going to go season 1, season 2, season 3, and
Maybe
then
unless maybe they'll have like a big flashback thing in Mandalorian season 3
I'm sure
episode 1,
there will be
or,
something
or Disney
to
Plus
help people
will do the suggestion
suggest
thing. I
it.
don't know.
Yeah, but
Whatever. Who
again,
cares?
people don't click those.
Who
They
cares?
don't.
Yeah,
Casuals
I
are
know, but
not going to
who
click that.
cares? I don't care. That's their problem. My problem
I'm
is
saying
that,
though, it's going to be a problem for
but
some
that's the
people.
least of the problems. The problem is there's no movement in character development and story.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay, we've beaten this episode into
no,
submission.
no, no.
Let's move on
There's
to.
the next thing though, because in the episode uh you got Cad Cad Bane.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the other thing. So at the end of this one, that's the other big deal. And I just kind of knew it was Cad Bane as soon as that we see the
Oh,
figure in
of
the
course, the
distance.
silhouette and everything.
I was like, okay,
It was
they're
awesome.
bringing him. It was really good. He looked a little off though, but that's a whole other thing.
Well, this seems to be an issue. This is going to be an issue with these live action shows where
Yeah,
it's
but it
they
doesn't have to be,
but
because then
but
every time you have
we
someone on YouTube that puts up the version that looks like it should, and then they always do it like really good, and it's like, why, Disney? Why can't
right
you do it?
we have it's not even like Cad Bane is a Duro. Duros exist outside of the cartoons. We know what a Duro looks like in like a movie. There's
Yeah.
Duros in the cantina and their mouth is in the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And that's, 77. That's, 40,
45
5
years.
years ago. We know what they're supposed to look like. How do you fuck it up? I mean, I know what they
By
did,
being
right?
Disney.
They
Yeah.
saved a little bit of money by putting the mouth where someone in a mask could talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
fine. It's not that big of a deal. It gets much
It's not.
worse
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
talk about Obi-Wan.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yes, it's just one of those things, and it again, it didn't bother me that much, but it's just kind of like,
No, that's fine. And
God, that'd be so
the
easy to
skin
fix.
it was really just the mouth for me. The skin color was fine because he's older. He just did he's a little older and grayer. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's not that big of a deal.
it's weird that like most fans, including myself, we accepted Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka fairly easily, and maybe it was because the timeline was so much further that it helped smooth over in our heads, like, oh, she shouldn't look like exactly like that, but it'd been so, Ahsoka's like 50 or 45 or something
Well, there's no
during.
frame of reference. We haven't seen her in live action. We've only seen a cartoon. Um, as far as her, what she should look like. So it's really open to interpretation. Um, and
Yeah,
she's very
there's
humanoid, whereas, a Duro is a Duro, and they
yeah, there's more alienness to the face. But yeah, so Cad Bane shows up. He shoots Cobb Vanth they have a little,
in
you
the
know,
shoulder.
yeah, Western style shootout. I knew Cobb Vanth wasn't dead right away because in the audio, subtitles help, but there's a guy who's like, med pack, get a med pack or
Right.
whatever.
Well, you
And
just
so I
tell
was
if you
like,
slow
he's
it
fine.
down, he shoots him in the shoulder. It's like,
Yeah, and that's always how it is in every Western too. It's like shoulder shot
right.
or like the side, or something. But
Yeah, if you only get shot once, because the deputy got shot, but he got shot several
oh
times.
yeah,
So
he
he's
was
definitely dead.
he was
But
taking out like Ed 209 and taking out the guy in the boardroom, basically.
yeah, in the extended edition.
Extended
Um,
edition, yeah.
uh,
Flies over the model of Delta City.
so yeah, it was pretty obvious that he
Yeah.
wasn't dead.
So this episode, okay, you got Ahsoka, Luke, R2D2, Cad Bane. It was a smorgasbord. Like Star Wars fans were flipping their shit
Mm-hmm.
like that morning. And I started to see inklings of it, like people just excitedly posting, and I knew I need to see this ASAP. So I made sure my schedule was arranged to where I could watch it pretty early in the morning, and I was like, I don't want to get on social media anymore until I
Right.
watch this. So
Yeah, it was huge.
yeah,
And then the Pikes bomb the sanctuary.
yeah,
So
they bombed the
no more
sanctuary.
Garsa Fwip.
Yeah, and hopefully Max Rebo escaped out the back
Yeah, if
door.
he managed to get off the sail barge, I'm pretty sure he made it out of the sanctuary
I
okay.
hope the guy is like a big blubbery blue elephant. He's not exactly like, he doesn't look like he could just jam out the door,
Well,
and he
maybe
got
his piano thing
his
set
keypad.
turns into a robot that he can ride out of there.
It's got like cybernetic legs that like pop out.
Isn't that
Better yet, it's like
in
jets on the bottom that
in
just take
Captain
off.
EO that that uh that one
That thing that
robot
looks like him.
turns well no that robot turns into like a drum set.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen Captain EO in a
Oh,
long
okay,
time.
yeah.
But yeah, I
And then there's
vaguely
that
kind of
that
remember
alien that looks like Max Rebo.
Hooter.
Hooter,
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember his name was Hooter. Yeah,
Anyway,
people
so
have said that Captain EO might be part of the Star Wars continuity, but that's a whole other story. Uh, anyway, yeah, hopefully Max Rebo has survived.
well,
Um,
it would be nice if Garza Fwip. Well, I
I
get
certainly would like
we're
her.
pretty sure she's dead
Hopefully
because
it blew off her clothes too.
she she was shown in there when the explosion happened, like as it happened. So she's pretty much dead. So
Yeah,
what a
yeah,
waste.
I know.
It's kind of the
Uh,
theme of this. Kind of the theme of this season. The series is wasted potential, but
yes, yeah, that's so true. But anyway, then the final episode,
right.
which is titled
In the name of
In the
honor.
Name of Honor. This one was again directed by Robert Rodriguez. Oh, but by the way, the previous one it was directed by Dave Filoni. Just some that's
Oh, right. And the one
throwing out.
before that was Bryce Dallas Howard.
There you
So
go. There you go.
it's unsurprising that the two best episodes were
Yeah.
directed by BDH and
Yep.
Filoni.
Yep. And
But
that would
also
be the case for. Uh-huh.
the episodes that weren't Boba Fett episodes because they
Yes.
previously directed
Usually,
stuff
you'll
for
notice
Mando.
it's ones where they focus on their own characters more.
Right. Yeah.
In Bryce Dallas Howard's case, this is the second time now where she's focused on Mandalorians,
Yeah.
like Bo-Katan
As a
or
group. Yeah.
as a group, and then the armor. So that must be kind of her thing.
Right.
And the Filoni is always Ahsoka or you know, I guess any Clone Wars kind of or Rebels
Or
kind of thing would
Cad
be
Bane.
Filoni
There you go. So,
or Cad Bane. Yeah, it's been a big year for Cad Bane fans, I gotta say. Well,
it's
2021 into 2022
yeah.
because Bad Batch and everything.
Yeah.
So
Chapter 7, the return of Robert Rodriguez.
yeah,
And which, when I was reading the thing and I was looking at the episode uh, guide before, as they were coming out, I could have swore it said that Favreau directed one of the episodes. So I was all jazzed because we got to the point where it's like, oh, okay, we've gotten past the Rodriguez episodes, which were arguably the worst. I shouldn't say worst, but the weakest episodes of the
mhm.
series. They're not bad. They're just have the
They are
mods.
they're weak compared to the good
Yeah,
ones.
they have the mods in them.
They tend to have the mods, and the
So
mods were heavily featured in this one.
I was super excited because oh, Favreau's going to direct the last episode. No, he didn't. I was
No,
wrong. I don't know what I was reading or what I was
you saw
misinterpreting,
his
but
name because he wrote every
right,
episode.
yeah. But I
Except
thought I could
maybe
have swore somewhere said that he was going to direct one of the episodes, but
I
not the
thought that
case
too, but no, he
because
just wrote the whole
this was
series.
clearly directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah. And again, it was an okay episode, but to have it's like the problem. You get this big old rush of the last two. It's like this big Star Wars high, and then you're brought back down to the series it should have just been from the beginning, the Book of Boba Fett, and it's just kind of pretty good, you know. And so, again, the whole Mando thing, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but like it came in and gave us this rush and then it pulled it away and we're left with like, oh yeah, this is the Book of Boba Fett. It's just all right. It's just like
I feel like they messed up. They telegraphed. Okay, well, let me say this after we go over the episode because this is a
okay.
problem with the series. I think.
Okay. So long story short, this is just the big battle that had been building up from throughout the series with the Pikes and Fett's new criminal syndicate, which also includes the mods helping him, as well as now Mandalorian, who has joined. And of course, Grogu made his choice, and he came via R2D2 and Luke's X-wing and got dropped off. And but no, it's just the big
For a
battle.
second, I thought, I don't know why I thought, but I thought maybe Luke was going to help because
That would have actually made the episode
because
better.
it's Tatooine, It's like,
Yeah, I know,
oh, it's
right?
Tatooine,
Right, right.
his home. No,
Totally.
it wasn't.
No, it
Fucking
wasn't Luke. It was
R2
just
was
R2.
R2 was impatient to drop that little shit off and get back to whatever that planet was. I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we never know. That's the thing. That planet is still unnamed, and I still
Oh,
have a
that's
theory
interesting.
that,
I didn't.
you know,
What's the?
I think it's going to be Yavin 4. I think it's going to be. It's like what they did with Ilum and Starkiller Base, where they knew
See,
like several
keeping
years,
the dream of decanonizing the sequels alive.
or just merging them even more, which however it turns out.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, this most of this episode was the culmination of what was leading up with the Pikes, and um sure enough, there's just the whole episode was really just this big battle in the street of Mos Espa.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give the really short version of this. There's just they start fighting. The Pikes bring in their big guns. Freetown comes in.
Mm-hmm.
They get overwhelmed by the big droid Takaz.
The shields.
Yeah. Which, 15 minutes of watching people shoot shields with no
Yeah.
effect is really exciting.
Yeah.
That's, um, then the best part, I think, of the whole episode, Boba Fett comes in on the Rancor. That
Yeah.
was probably the highlight
That
for
definitely
the
was
whole
really
series,
cool.
really.
And there was a lot of King Kong referencing here.
Mm-hmm.
He climbs the tower in Mos Espa. I mean, if there
King
was
Kong
just
and
speeders,
Godzilla.
yeah, a lot of both. And if there was just like speeders flying past it when he was on the tower, it would have been exactly like King
Little
Kong.
droids flying around.
So I actually did like that. That was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Everything with the Rancor was really awesome.
So the Rancor, and then the duel with Cad Bane, and then everybody's happy. Now, let's talk about what we liked and didn't like about the episode.
Well, the Cad Bane thing with Fett was pretty cool. They have a standoff, and there seemed obviously because they have a lot of history. Cad Bane essentially trained Boba as a bounty hunter after the
Mm-hmm.
Clone Wars, and there was a lot of unreleased episodes that didn't make it off the cutting room floor that we're gonna delve into that.
Right,
But
right.
so I was kind of surprised that Cad Bane seemed to have been killed here, and that the story possibilities seeming to end, but then you see his little flashing indicator light on his chest armor, like he's still alive as Fett walks away or whatever it was. So
Um,
you never
I
know.
almost thought he was going to be the one in the in the post-credit scene,
That would have
but then it
actually
was
been
Cobb
really
Vanth.
awesome.
Right.
Compared to what we got.
But no, I mean, Cad was wasted. He should have
So wasted.
come in on the first episode. He should have been, or first or second episode. He should have been
Yeah.
there from the beginning as a threat,
Yes.
as an a looming threat.
Yes, much more even than the Pikes, which were the Pikes. The problem with them is that they're just faceless.
No one gives a shit.
No one.
They're
You
fish.
don't.
They're fish faces. Even when they take their
Just
masks off, that you don't care.
right. It's just there's just a criminal. They're just a criminal entity,
Right.
like an enterprise. Whereas we don't. There's no personality to like. There's not a leader of the Pikes that we like know and loathe.
Right.
So yeah, it should have been Cad Bane more early on, like you said. This was just wasted potential.
Um.
Yeah.
So, I think the thing I liked the least was the whole street battle.
Yeah.
Because
it's like no citizens.
Well, like I said,
it's
15 minutes of them shooting at shields to no effect. I mean, even the droids in the Phantom Menace didn't do that.
Yeah.
they didn't waste time and energy shooting the Gungan shields, and they're stupid
Yeah.
droids. Um, when Freetown comes up, you think it's going to be some big street battle, and the people of Freetown show up, and it's like one speeder with like 7 people in it, and they
Yeah.
hop. It's
I mean,
like
it's a small town. Maybe it wasn't the whole town, but you
right,
get
but
the feeling it should have been.
I don't know. It's so I don't know that the show knew what it was supposed to be. Was it a mafia, like organized crime
Yeah.
centered show, or was it a western? And I
Or
think it
was it
tried.
supposed to be about Fett, like in
Or
his
right,
journey? And
yeah, yeah.
obviously, it started out feeling like the Book of Boba Fett, the first 3 episodes or so. But then it started bringing in too many other characters, and it lost focus, and it really became less about him. In the end, he's a guest star in his own show by the last
Yes,
few. You
yes.
know,
So they so is it a western? Is it a mafia show? If it's a mafia, like organized crime show, that's worked in like, there'll be a crime family in a big city like New York, and the city's really big. And if they have like a turf war or something, that can be on a smaller scale in a big city. Um, but it's it's weird when it's a western, because usually westerns are like smaller towns like Freetown. Um, so when Freetown shows up in Mos Espa, and it's like this big city, and it's supposedly this turf war, but it just didn't feel right. It was weird. Like,
yeah,
they talk about, oh, they're destroying the city. It's like, well, Mos Espa's huge. Like, you're destroying maybe like a block, with your
yeah.
fighting. It was
I
just the
was getting
scale was really weird.
the scale felt more. It felt like a Western size scale when
Right.
someone has a shootout in the corral.
Uh-huh.
And it's
Yeah.
just like a little corral, and it's just like 2 guys shooting it from across the
Right.
thing, and
And even
so
when Mando and Boba are in the burnt out sanctuary, and that was like, oh, we're in the the saloon, we got to shoot our way out. That
mhm,
works in a small western town, but not in a big, Mos
yeah,
Espa that's like more metropolitan. I mean, as,
yeah,
as metropolitan as you can get on Tatooine. They
yeah,
showed it, it was
yeah,
huge. um
yep,
it just felt really weird. It didn't feel
yeah.
right. Like
This
the setting was wrong for what they were trying to do.
this whole this whole episode was just an underwhelming, just kind of okay. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved the other thing I was gonna say I loved that Grogu kind of put the Rancor to sleep after it was raging and
Hmm.
was just, like, in beast mode. I loved that, that was really
That
cool,
that was cool. I
and it
liked that.
yeah, yeah.
But imagine if one of those episodes that was used for Mando was instead Boba Fett bonding with the Rancor, or a
Mhm.
portion of the episode was him bonding with the Rancor, and
Yeah,
it was
imagine.
actually Boba Fett that calmed the Rancor down because of their bond. Like the
Right.
Rancor imprints on him, and he, because of his bond with the Rancor, is able to calm it down.
Mhm.
That would have been
Yeah,
cool.
that would've been
um
cool.
yeah, I think, and that's that is an example of just how much wasted potential was in this series.
Yep.
There's a lot of good things in the series. There's a lot of things I like. There's a lot of things I don't like, but there's a lot of things I like. I really like Tamora Morrison. I
Mhm.
mean, if they want to put him in every series as, Boba and Captain Rex and any sort of old clone, it'd be great. Um,
Yeah, he was good.
but it just
It
it
was inconsistent.
it's just sad. I
For
mean, even
me
even at the
yeah.
end, uh, Boba didn't like. Okay, so he has the shootout with Cad, the face off, and then
Mhm.
Cad, I think it was even before that when Cad points out that it was the Pikes that killed the Tusken Raiders that he was with,
Mhm. Right,
versus it
right.
wasn't the biker
Yeah.
gang.
Yeah.
So Boba didn't get revenge, but then even later, Boba doesn't get revenge because it's actually Fennec that kills the Pike leader and the rest of
Right, right.
the I can't remember what they're called, the family leaders and stuff, and the
Yeah,
mayor. She
yeah.
kills him, not Boba. It's the same thing with the fucking Sarlacc. She kills the Sarlacc, not Boba Fett.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Boba
See,
Fett's
this whole
show.
series is people taking away Fett's
He
right
jobs. He
to
jobs the whole series. Jobbing is like in wrestling when your job is to just lose to
uh-huh.
the named wrestler. You know, you're the
Yeah,
generic
yeah.
wrestler that just loses. That's
Yeah.
what he did the whole time. He jobs to make everyone else look better because Boba
There you
Fett's really
go.
cool, right? This is the same problem I have with the Hulk in the MCU is
Hmm.
that he after his movie all he does is job to make everyone else look more powerful, to show their
Right.
power level, you know.
Yep.
I say that as a
Yep.
Hulk fan. I'm a huge Hulk fan. My
Yeah.
favorite comic book character and all that stuff. So it's the same thing.
You're absolutely
It's
right.
he he gets robbed of all the best moments, I feel
Hmm.
like. Um so it's just wasted potential. Let me say this too. Speaking of the showdown with Cad and Boba, that was really cool. But somebody broke it down. There was 28 cuts at the end of it when Boba like uses his gaffy stick to take him out. You know, he like you, you know pulls the gun and then beats him and then stabs him. The whole thing.
28.
28 cuts.
Jeez.
It's insane. It's like that. There's a funny. It's not really a meme. It's actually in the movie. The in Taken 3, there's a scene where Liam Neeson's jumping over a fence
Hmm.
and
Oh yeah.
there's gotta be like
I
28
remember.
cuts in that thing, and it's
I re-
just him jumping over
yeah.
the fence. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's the same
remember
thing. It's
seeing
like,
that.
what happened to just a shot and a
Or
fluid?
like or like two or three cuts,
Yeah,
like
I I think I said this before. Robert Rodriguez has a fetish for Boba Fett beating somebody with a gaffy stick with a
sure.
maniac look on his face.
Oh yeah.
Like that is his he loves that. His signature thing. He did it in Mando in his episode. He did it at the beginning of the series, the Boba Fett
Yeah.
series, and he did it at the end. Like the
Yeah.
requisite beating someone with a gaffy stick while looking like a an insane person.
Exactly. Okay, so what would you rate this series? I'm like if it's a star rating and you give half stars, whatever. For me, Mandalorian season 1 was like what did I give it? For me it was like 3.5 stars or yeah, something like that. Mando season
Um
2 with 4 stars. This one I'm giving 3, an even 3 because it had really high highs that had nothing to do with the show, and then everything else was just kind of like there was a couple really low ones, so it
you
got
know,
balanced out. So it's a 3 star for me.
it's tough because we're doing it out of 4 or 5.
5 stars,
5
yeah.
stars, okay. It's really tough because I really wanted to like it. I really like Tamora Morrison as Boba Fett.
Mhm,
I've said it before. I don't never cared about Boba Fett until um, Tamora was Django, and then
mhm.
Boba Fett was a clone of Django. I thought that was really interesting. I'd give it 2.5 actually because I really wanted to like it, but there's so many things they could have done with it to explore Boba Fett's character.
Yeah,
um, they could have done more flashbacks. They could have had him go on a quest to complete his father's armor set. I saw somebody mention this online that it would have been cool if he left to go get the missing armor pieces like the leg plates and stuff. And while
right.
he was doing it, he was, I don't know, having flashbacks or learning more about Django or something, um, or just
It could have
showing.
even flashed back to learning with Cad Bane when he was
Oh yeah, see,
younger.
if Cad was in the beginning of the show and not used as
Yep,
some big reveal at the end, he could have just been there the
yep,
whole time, even in
mhm,
flashback form.
yep.
Um, so I mean, there's that. There's well, I mean, Cad should have been from the beginning. Also, I feel like what they probably should have done is condensed or um not had episode 5, move 6 to the end as kind of an epilogue,
Mhm.
so you wrap up Boba's story in season 5, and then you transition over to sort of uh, uh, a transitionary episode back to Mandalorian stuff using the last episode, and then that way you're not stealing Boba's thunder in the middle of his
Or
own
just not
series.
have that episode and use it to fill in later in season 3 of Mandalorian that
Well,
which could
no,
then
no,
flash back to this.
yeah, well, no, I mean like you could have episode 6, and then the cliffhanger for the season is Grogu going to choose Mando, or are you going to choose the Jedi, right? Like,
Right, but
because that.
what I'm saying is they didn't even it didn't even need to be part of the plot of this Boba Fett series. You know how like in this series they flash back to Mandalorian when Fett found Fennec?
Mm-hmm.
That should have been in season 3 of Mandalorian, where it's flashing back to the book of Boba Fett, and we see what Mando did when he went to go meet Luke as a
Well,
flashback
I
in
mean,
that.
maybe, but I'm just saying, if they really wanted to have Mando, like a Mando episode, they could have done it that way. But I know
You
what
know
you're
what?
saying. They could have
Yeah,
just not had it at all.
you know what I think really the decision making was that I think there was someone at Disney knew that this series wasn't super great, and they were like, "Well, let's give Star Wars fans something they really want to talk about and really gonna blow their minds, and let's elevate this a little bit here." And I think that's what they did. They used those elements as a cash in
I
on us.
think God love Robert Rodriguez. I think anyone could have told them that if you make the showrunner from, of this show, the guy who did Spy Kids, it's not going to work out great. Like, I know that Robert Rodriguez did um, Desperado and whatever that other movie was, and
Yeah,
some other stuff.
20, 26, 27 years ago. That's the problem, though. He made really good stuff in his early years, and as his career's gone on, and I've not seen all his movies, so I'm not one to properly criticize. But from what I have seen in clips of his across his career, to me, his stuff has kind of gotten tepid as time has gone on. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I would say that's what happened with Boba Fett. It should have had a harder edge. Um, See, now if I moved six into episode 6 in the last episode spot, that would mean
Uh,
Grogu wouldn't be in Tatooine at all.
yeah, yeah.
Like, that
And
just
he didn't
wouldn't.
need to be. He
He
could have
didn't
been
need to
fed
be.
and calming the Rancor.
Right, exactly. I would have rejiggered the whole thing,
Yep.
and the focus would have solely been on Boba Fett. There would have been more, because they kind of use the Tusken Raider stuff as like explaining his soft edge
Yes.
now, I
Yeah.
guess. But it's
Yeah.
not a very good explanation.
There
I
was
didn't
so much.
feel like.
Look, fans, get your editing tools out. Let's get the scalpel and let's get this down to something good. So we'll see what
Yeah, we need
happens.
a Troffer Grace to
Yeah,
edit this series down to something good.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah.
it's a 2.5 for me. I wanted to like it. I liked a lot of stuff on it, but the missed potential is too great. It's kind of the same thing with the sequel trilogy. So
hmm Let's bring up that ghost again. Uh,
always.
there we go. The Book of Boba Fett. Well, I'm gonna revisit it at some point, maybe later this year, maybe early next year. But yeah, we'll see what time does to it. I don't anticipate it will be kind, but we'll see.
All right, let's talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, the TV show
Yeah,
now.
yeah, that's right. Coming to Disney Plus May 25th, the exact 45th anniversary of A New Hope. Interestingly, um, yeah, we got a teaser trailer, which is I think about a minute and a half long, minute 45, something like that. It looks pretty good overall.
On
Except for
average,
yeah, it does look really great. Uh, there's just one problem, Jason.
yes.
Yeah, what and this is what everyone this is the talk of the town the last week or so.
It's the rocks, right? That Obi-Wan's sitting on, looking over the
You, you,
homestead.
you know what?
That's my biggest problem.
That's a whole other thing that we're gonna throw on the fandom now with us. It's gonna start with us, but no, actually, everyone's talking about the Grand Inquisitor from
Oh, what's the
Rebels.
matter with him?
Well, he looks like Pinhead from Hellraiser.
Well, he
Uh,
looks like budget Pinhead from
budget Pinhead.
that
I like,
rights the studio making that Hellraiser movie to retain the rights.
yeah, I like that right away. This is the first analyzation of our trailers. We go right for the negative, but to be fair, this is the only like truly kind of weird thing from the trailer because it does look really good, and I just don't understand why they couldn't make the Grand Inquisitor look like he does in Rebels. He doesn't have the dark side eyes. He doesn't even really look like a Powin unless you squint. So,
Yeah, it seems like a really weird gaff. Um, I'm, I mean, we're pretty close. I know that they can do visual effects like up to the last minute and even after the fact. Disney has fixed stuff in their series after the fact.
right, but
Um, not
I
something this
figure,
big.
and that's the thing. Like, maybe if this was a movie, like, okay, for example, when Rogue One came out, the first two trailers, and even I think some of the commercials used a lot of footage we didn't see.
Hmm.
So there was changes, like big changes, like Jen and Cassian running with the plans on the beach,
Right.
like
Well,
whole
and there was reshoots with that.
right.
So,
So, but then again, with this is only like several weeks away, and it's so big of a thing, and they know the fans are going to be talking about every little detail. So to leave something
well, everybody was
even
talking about Cad Bane, and
everyone was talking about Cad Bane, but you know what? Believe it or not, as much as people talked about that, I didn't see a single negative comment. Like everyone was like, "Well, he looks different, but I can understand because," and then they would give their reasoning. I didn't see any negativity surrounding Cad Bane. So,
Oh, well, you're you're not plumbing the depths like I am.
no, I guess not. But just being on social media, on Facebook and YouTube, that's usually where I see negative stuff. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't,
yeah. Well, yeah, there's the normie areas where you'll see
yeah,
stuff surface, and then I'm going into like, deep forums and people shitting on everything. So,
the bowels of Narshada
yeah.
is where you're going.
So I saw a lot of criticism of Cad Bane, but I could see I could see like, okay, well, they just wanted to save a few bucks on CGI mouth, you know, because
Yeah,
they want him to be
Disney
able to
wanted to save
talk.
a few bucks.
Yeah, they just adjusted where the mouth is on a Duro so that it would be easier for makeup and allow the actor to talk.
Yeah, no,
So
I didn't have any major issue with Cad Bane
this
myself.
is pretty bad though. This is really bad.
Yeah, this just looks. You know what though? I need to see it in a scene, how the guy looks and everything. I mean, the Grand Inquisitor is whatever. He was only in season one of Rebels, and then he and Kanan faced off, and then he died. And
Yeah, but it doesn't excuse the fact we've seen Powens
no,
on screen. Like,
I
and
know.
they're not
There
CGI,
is no
it's makeup.
excuse. And
Like,
on top of that, in the trailer, we see another of the Inquisitors, which I believe is the fifth brother.
mhm.
He was the one that has the kind of dome-shaped helmet that was later also in Rebels. And he's played I can't remember the actor's name, but it's the Asian actor that was cast in this series. He's playing the fifth brother, and
Do you feel like it's a racist casting? Because the hat is
I didn't
kind of
even
like a
think of
rice
that.
paddy hat. It's
Also, like Kung Lao, he's
yeah,
playing like Kung Lao,
He's
right?
Kung Lao. He's gonna take the hat off and slice
And
someone in
slice some
half.
guys. I didn't think of that until right then. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Um, here's the thing. Also, okay, so the fifth brother didn't seem to be human. Like he seemed like some other, or like maybe a near human. Like if you see his face close up, it's like it's very bestial. I
Mm-hmm.
would say.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, we're getting a kind of smudgy, not that clear
Very, very
picture.
smudgy.
So it's hard to really truly
Yeah.
criticize in this case.
I'm not worried about the fifth brother.
I'm not worried so much about the fifth brother. Also, who knows? Maybe he had something happen to his face like Palpatine did in Revenge of the Sith. Who
Yeah.
knows? Story reasons, But anyway, those are the only real kind of ever so slight concerns I have. Most of the trailer looks really good. Ewan looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love the line about how the Jedi are so easy to track because their weakness is compassion or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing that sounds like a great line.
Lifted
And
from
then
Palpatine.
Was there a version of that he said somewhere?
Well, he tells Luke in Return of the Jedi, your compassion.
Oh, right. Kind
Yeah.
of like a variation on
Yeah, it's
that.
a variation on it. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of the
Or no,
other
no, he's telling Vader. He's not telling
right.
Luke. He's
Right,
telling
right.
Vader that his compassion will be
Well,
his undoing, right?
he's telling Luke when they first come on the Death Star and you're well, basically there's like,
No,
your
no, no,
faith in your
no. He's
friends.
he's telling yeah, he's
Who knows?
no, no, no. He's telling Vader that his compassion for him will be his undoing.
Oh, that
He
I
will
was
come
thinking
to
of the
you,
scene
and
with
then you will
Luke.
bring him before me.
Ah,
Yeah.
gotcha. I was thinking of the Luke scene. Okay,
Right,
you're
yeah, because
right.
he has a similar thing, but he doesn't talk about compassion. He does
Right,
when he's talking to Vader about Luke.
right.
Glad we could clear that up.
Yes. No,
Anyway,
that's good. No, I feel bad. There was a podcast where I said they didn't say Bespin in The Empire Strikes Back, and then I'm watching it again and like, oh, what did he say? Cloud City Bespin. I think it's pretty far, but I think we can make it. It's like, oh, he does say it.
you
So
get
stupid.
to a certain age, and then we forget things.
I know. Anyway, um, what did you think of the new Inquisitor played by what is it, Moses Ingram? I think is her name. The
She's
black woman.
she seems fine. I mean, it's not. I I have no preconceptions about her because
Yeah,
she's new. So
yeah,
we'll see how it is. It'll be
yeah,
interesting.
exactly. I
I
think
I hope I hope she's like you know really evil or bad and not like she has a
has second thoughts about
second
turning to the
thoughts.
dark
Yeah,
side.
yeah, crap like that. I hope that
You
that
know
isn't
what?
a thing.
Not to go off on too long a tangent, but there's a trope in a lot of Star Wars stories, especially in recent years, where every time we have a story that's centered on Imperials from their point of view, they always turn to the rebels or
Yes. Yeah.
they defect to the New Republic. And it
Yeah.
happened in Battlefront 2 in the campaign mode. And it's happened, I think in the TIE Fighter comic that came out a couple years ago. But it's a trope that
It's
it's just one of
tired.
those it's so tired. I want to see Imperials that stay Imperial and we get
Yeah.
their point of view.
Right.
Just keep it that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, she looks like an intriguing character. I know some people were already crying foul because of the fact that she's black or a woman or whatever. And
But
you
she's a
know,
new character. Who cares?
that's the thing. It's not like the character was envisioned to be one thing and then they changed her. It's
Right.
just she's a new character. So I don't
I
know
will
what
say that
people
that is the fact that she's um black and a woman does have me a little worried that she's going to defect or whatever, have a change of heart at the very end.
because she can't possibly be evil and then
Mhm.
represent
Mhm. Cuz that
the
not
people
all the
that
time.
identify with her.
It's not 100%, but that is an issue, that is a trope a lot of
Yeah, it
times.
it is. It actually is. And now that you mention it, we're probably gonna see it. So you
I hope
called it
not. We'll
here.
see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah, we'll see.
The
Um,
other problem is when they introduce new characters like that, and especially if it's something plopped in the middle of
mhm.
like something that's established, you're like, okay, I've never seen this character before or since. So is she going to exist outside of this series, right? Or is
Yeah,
she going to
yeah.
die in the series? Is that telegraphing something
If
like
it was Lucas,
is she
she'd
going to
die.
have a change of heart and she somehow saves Obi-Wan and Vader kills her? You know what I mean? Or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
These are the things that I'm thinking about as far as, okay, well, this might be the fact that she is a new character in the series could indicate she isn't going to make it past the series.
yeah.
And if that's the case, then it could be because she has a change of heart, but we'll see.
Right, right. I want to mention. I'll just mention a couple things as from my notes here regarding the trailer, because this ties into the Inquisitors. We see this big structure on this ocean planet, and this was first seen in Jedi Fallen Order. It's they call it the Fortress Inquisitorius, which is on the planet Nur, which is
That
in.
sounds like a transformer, like Fortress
I
Maximus.
know. I know. I was even thinking, what was the name of on Super Friends? Their they're the bad guys, Darth Vader looking head fortress thing that comes out of the
I
swamp.
don't remember, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It kind of gave me vibes of that. But
Or
so
the
this,
Decepticons had a underwater
yes,
base
yes,
that would come
that
out.
too.
Yeah.
That too.
Anyway.
So anyway, Fortress Inquisitorius is on Nur, which is it's a moon in the Mustafar system.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just right over the hill from Vader, basically on Mustafar. It's a really cool location, and I don't want to spoil too much about Jedi Fallen Order other than the fact that it appears in it, and I know you still need to play it.
Yes.
But it's a really good Easter egg. Seeing the glimpses of it after playing the game, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's so cool. But people are pretty excited about that, and even though the Inquisitors that we know from Rebels do look weird, it's nice to see them being used in live action. I gotta say.
Yeah.
So
It sort of elevates
yeah,
those series, Rebels
yeah,
and Clone Wars and stuff, when they pull things from that, because it is just a cartoon. Even if it is canon, it's still
yeah,
considered canon. It is a
exactly.
cartoon, so it's nice when it's, when it's adapted properly.
Yeah, and it looks like there's a new Inquisitor, not quite Twi'lek looking, but she or they have like little head tail kind of things. Looks like a new character. Um, and then we see this kind of city planet with the graffiti and like neon and everything. At first, I was excited. I was like, "Is that Narshada? Are we finally canonizing Narshada or seeing it
Mm,
in live
yeah.
action?" But according to people, I don't know, I can't remember where I came across this info, but it's called
Wait.
Dayu.
Is it people or people? Is it People the magazine, or are you just saying people?
No, no, people as in folks, as in
Oh,
human
okay, okay.
beings.
Well, because
I
like Entertainment Tonight, the different magazines will have articles
no,
about
yeah.
things. So I was
And
just
I
wondering.
can't, I put it in my notes and I couldn't remember where I got it from, but I did read the Entertainment Weekly article, and I'll bring up a couple things from that in a bit here. Um, we also get our first glimpse of the female Imperial officer played by Indira Varma. She was interesting thing about this actress. She played a character on Game of Thrones called uh, Ilaria Sand, who was the concubine to Pedro Pascal's character on Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny that between that and then Amelia Clark, it's like there's so many Game of Thrones people in Star Wars now. But
Well, Big
it's
Show spawned a
yeah,
lot of careers and stuff. So
absolutely, absolutely. And so it's cool to see a glimpse of a female Imperial officer. I'm intrigued and hopeful that something cool and different is seen. Um, it's funny about the new canon. There's not been any mention of the fact that Palpatine has a bias against like women or aliens in the Empire. That was a
uh
big thing in Legends, but in canon, it's
yeah.
been nil. There's been nothing about
Um
that. So,
yeah, I've noticed that. But that is something that was kind of I think implied in the movies, or implied by accident inadvertently in the
hmm
movies, and then it was
hmm
expanded a lot in the old EU.
yes,
Um so that's cool. I mean,
yeah, yeah. It's nice to see something different. And I
white
appreciated
males
the
aren't all
glimpses.
bad. So we can
Not
have
all
other
of them,
bad people too.
just most,
Equal
especially when they slick their
opportunity.
hair back, like everybody in the 80s, every white bad guy had to slick his long hair back,
Hmm.
put grease in it. But yeah, no, I'm intrigued about her character. And we also see Luke on the homestead. Obviously Owen is glimpsed, Joel Edgerton. Great to see him again.
Yeah, I
Um,
would say that he is probably the best young recast for any
mhm,
Star Wars character. As far
absolutely.
as he's he looks like the original actor, even
Yeah,
more so than
Phil
Ewan.
Brown.
Yeah.
Phil Brown played him originally, and yeah, back 20 years ago when he was cast as the 20-year-old Owen or whatever, we were all saying at the time, like, wow, he really, with the hair and the garb and everything, he really pulled it
Hmm.
off.
Yeah, and even more so now.
Even more so
Better
because he's
than
got the little,
better than
yeah,
Ewan. I would say.
Yeah, because I still feel well, Ewan, they've they pointed this out in articles and stuff. His facial structure is like Alec Guinness as far as the
Mhm.
forehead and the nose and everything.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're really gonna do a merging, you would still need to CG it somehow
Yeah.
to make him really look like it,
Right.
as time goes on.
That's
But
not to say it's bad.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
Edgerton's more like Brown. That's all.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Physically.
Boneface from Ep 4. Uh,
I'll always remember that
inside
line
joke.
from the what was that? Behind the scenes?
Yeah, it was the episode 2 on location videos with
Mhm.
Ahmed Best. Anyone
Yep.
who hasn't seen those, they are on YouTube. There's a guy that put up like all 40 of them or whatever. Go watch the Joel Edgerton one,
Go watch all
and
of them. They're really funny.
they are good. They
They're
are good.
good.
I'm overdue on seeing them again, but yeah. Now wasn't what was this thing you mentioned earlier about
Oh, the
the
homestead.
homestead and
Yeah,
the
this is something I noticed, and I went and actually looked at tried to find all the scenes that depicted the homestead in all the movies before, and it was because there's something bothered me. It was so he's Obi-Wan's looking through the binoculars or whatever
Mhm.
at Luke and Owen and Beru on the homestead, and he's kind of hiding out in the rocks or whatever. And the angle was interesting because it was just I was like I don't remember ever seeing any sort of like mountains or hills or anything on any of
It
the
was always like salt flats. It was like
yes
super flat
yeah
over by
super
the
flat
homestead.
all over where
Yeah,
the Lars homestead was. So I
right.
went and I went back to Attack of the Clones, A New Hope, the end of. Did I look at the end? I think, yeah, I looked at the end of um, Revenge of the Sith.
Friends of the
I
Sith.
think
But it was pretty much like A New Hope in that
the
shot.
camera is always from that angle
Yep, yep.
or thereabouts whenever
Yeah,
they're
right.
showing things. Even when
Yeah.
like Anakin is standing at the graves, it's always from behind the graves. So except in Rise of Skywalker, when that old lady comes up and asks her like, "Who are you? It's been
Right.
so long." Um, she's coming from the direction where those hills or that mountain would be.
Yes.
There's nothing there. It's empty space. You know, even in
So
the old
that
movie, if
means
even in the old
yeah,
movie in A New Hope, they show that angle, but the sand
the
crawler's in the
sand
way,
crawlers there. Right,
so
right.
it blocks the view. So you never see. So there's this consistency to Lucas and well, I guess it was always just Lucas
Yeah.
showing the homestead and never showing where the camera would be viewing from, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
But in Rise, it's all just salt flats. So there's
So
this.
I
So
guess
it bugs
at
me.
some point after Obi-Wan Kenobi, Owen or somebody or the Tatooine government bureau or something came and plowed that mountain away.
Clearly,
That's the
clearly,
only
that's
explanation.
the explanation for it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I don't know. It's not obviously it's not a big deal. It was just something
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of annoyed me
yeah.
because at first I was like,
Well,
well, didn't they show that as like not existing? And no, they never did. And
yeah,
so I take it as the sequels aren't canon. That's my take on it. I don't think that any
yeah.
farmers or anything plowed that mountain down. It's
The
another
sequels aren't
breadcrumb.
canon.
It's a
Yeah,
breadcrumb to the conclusion that the sequels are not going to be canon much longer.
exactly. Now, here's an interesting thing about the homestead that I noticed, and I haven't seen anybody bring up, and I mean, I could be wrong, but when you see the view through the macro binoculars just before he zooms in on Luke, pretending to be a pod racer or whatever, um, you see Owen standing outside the door, and I think you see Baru off to the
Yeah,
side for a
it's
second.
before you say it, because I think I know
Uh-huh.
what you're going to say. I wonder if they're looking for Luke when
I know, right? Luke, where are you?
because it looks like they're
Luke,
coming out like, oh,
Luke.
where the hell are you? You got to get those units on the South Ridge, you little
I know,
shit.
right?
Um,
Um, but no, it's okay. So in A New Hope and even in Attack of the Clones, when we see the homestead from that angle, it always looks like there's one pit,
mhm.
just one big pit, and the dome. Well, there's the small little kind of really short dome and then there's the doorway dome.
Yeah.
And obviously, you only see the edge of the pit from those long angles because the interior of the pit was filmed at the hotel in the city there in Tunisia,
Right.
separately
Right.
far away, like 50 miles from there.
Yeah.
So when you see that shot in the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer, it looks like there's two pits, smaller instead of one big one. And then I wondered if they were maybe retconning that one is the big pit that Luke looks down in to talk to Beru in A New Hope, and maybe the other pit, maybe we're now just being able to see it better, and maybe it was always there, and maybe that's the one because the dome doorway is kind of just right there. Maybe that's the one that if Luke is going to fly his Skyhopper out, it launches from that pit. Because remember, his Skyhopper is parked right there in the garage when he walks past that little walkway in A New Hope.
Mm.
And so
That'd be
it
really
makes me wonder.
small.
Yeah, it's a small pit, and it makes obviously the Skyhopper would have a certain wingspan to be able to. I don't know, maybe the wings fold. I don't know how that works, but I need to go back to my technical journal, and I think there was a blueprint for the homestead. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just misremembering. But anyway, it looked like two pits instead of one. And I don't know if it's a retcon or what, but that interested me.
Um. Well, so I'm just quickly bringing up Revenge of the Sith, and it
Yeah.
looks like there's two. There might be two pits.
Okay. So maybe Lucas retconned it because in A New Hope it was certainly supposed to be just one mound. Obviously you don't see a pit because there wasn't a pit there per se, but like there was the mound that Luke puts his foot up on as he gazes at the sunset.
Right.
So yeah, it makes me wonder about the continuity of
I
the
don't know. We're
the
gonna have
Lars
to
homestead.
pour over
You
old
know,
scenes. You know what? Looking at A New
yeah.
Hope, there's two pits.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, there's an angle. There's an angle from when Luke's coming out of the dome
Yeah.
to talk to when the Jawas are there selling the droids.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a shot from just in front of the sandcrawler, and you can
Hmm.
see the parts of that mound around
The
the
mound.
lip of the
Yeah.
pit,
Yeah.
just beyond the dome. So
Okay. Oh, you know where I saw a cutaway of it? It was in I think it was the Attack of the Clones cross sections book. I
hmm
think it was either that one or the original trilogy cross sections.
wait a second.
Yeah.
There's a shot. Oh, I just lost it. There's a shot in A New Hope, and it shows I think three pits. Oh,
The
maybe there's just two.
Star Wars, the conspiracy
I
of the
know.
three pits.
Um, yeah, I don't
Sarlacc
know.
pit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think yeah. So
We
you're
need a
saying the
new
cross
technical
section? You
journal.
saying the cross section book's wrong then?
It could be. Well, you know what? Those cross-section books, they were still limited to, in some cases, what ILM had or what archival blueprints Lucasfilm may have had, and in some cases, even with the models that ILM made, there was things lost or destroyed because they didn't think people were going to need like all this crap for like how long is the executor, like it
Yeah.
took them like 30 years to pin down how long the
Yeah.
executor
No
is because
kidding.
I'm so glad I never went down that rabbit hole and cared enough. Like I never cared about the length of ships. That was never my thing. It because at the end of the day, I know their ships in front of a blue screen. And so I was like, it's the suspension of
Yeah, but
disbelief.
who
You just
cares
have
about
to
ship lengths? I need to know how many pits the Lars Homestead have. And
exactly.
I'm looking at it right now. It looks like there's three pits.
I'm as soon as I'm done recording with you, I'm gonna bring up A New Hope and I'm gonna take a close look at all this stuff. So
Uh-huh.
uh so in regards to Obi-Wan Kenobi, there was also an Entertainment Weekly article that was released, I think the same day as the trailer, and there was some nice tidbits in there. They had quotes from Kathleen Kennedy and Hayden and Ewan, and there was even a Ewan even did a like a Zoom interview with Entertainment Weekly talking about the filming of scenes with Hayden, and actually it was really cool to see his thoughts about kind of reuniting with Hayden, and then he talked about it was like a short Zoom thing. It was like maybe 5 minutes, but he talked about they met up during the pandemic. Like this is like a year before filming or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
they met up in Santa Monica and they just walked around with their masks on, chatting. And he said they hadn't seen each other since all those years earlier, even though they had stayed in touch, and they were still friends. But because of Hayden living in Canada and Ewan being in the UK, and both of them, I'm sure, staying busy, they hadn't seen each other in a long time. So
Yeah, yeah,
it was cool to hear Ewan's thoughts. And Hayden spent a lot of time. He kind of like semi-retired from acting. He like got a farm in Canada, and he just like raises chickens and pigs, and like he he enjoys unplugging, he said, which I can sympathize with. So
yeah,
that was kind of cool to kind of, imagine that. But yeah, he said when they were filming scenes, it was like no time had passed, and it was just this weird frozen, like, oh my God, it's still 2003, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really happy that they're working together again. I think that's one of the coolest things about this series that makes it special, because we didn't think we were going to get either one again for you know anything Star Wars. So
yeah. It almost makes you wish that it was not a limited series. Like,
actually, they Kathleen Kennedy said, and maybe this is the work of the devil, because I shouldn't quote her, but she said that Hayden and Ewan had such a good time that they have been, even now, considering doing more if everybody feels right. But
yeah,
she also pointed out that it would also take away the specialness of this particular story here.
yeah.
And so, and even with Darth Vader, she said people at ILM and Lucasfilm are so opinionated on whether or not to bring back Vader, and everyone has strong opinions. And she said that they really considered all this stuff because they know it's like sacred ground for Star Wars fans.
Oh,
So,
oh. Now they're gonna worry about that. Now they're
well,
gonna
they
worry
have
about
to
sacred
now
ground.
because we crapped all over the last two sequel movies, so they have
Uh-huh.
to now. And
Well,
so,
they were in such a
uh,
rush, which apparently they needed to be because Carrie was had an expiration date, but they were so like, oh, we can do this with the original actors, which apparently they weren't sacred ground, but how many years does James Earl Jones have left? I mean, obviously
yeah,
we have Scott Lawrence, and Scott Lawrence
we
is
do.
as good in my mind.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah,
but
James Earl Jones, I think he was mentioned in the article. There was no confirmation about his doing the voice, but
I don't know.
they'll
If Hayden took a page out of David Prowse's book, he could have made a real hissy fit about not doing the voice, or he contacted those guys from that weird video that David Prowse did for that company that did voice changing
the
work.
voice changing. Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is going down a rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
but
Well, I was gonna say I looked up James Earl Jones. I think he's 90 or
yeah,
91. He
yeah.
is way up there. Hopefully we get, you know what? It would be poetic if he's gonna have one last Vader's like scene or scenes, this is it. This is the one. So, you know, not that I wanted to croak or anything, but
No,
I'm just
I
saying
would
like
like, I don't know, I on the one hand, yes, um, it is like sacred ground, but on the other, it's this is one of those things that seems like a no-brainer for a series where
mhm.
you just follow Vader killing Jedi, hunting down and killing Jedi. It's kind of like the Clone Wars. It's like that was a no-brainer. Like we get to see the Clone Wars, we get to see it play out over all these battles and all these seasons and the cartoon and stuff.
Yeah.
The Jedi Purge, the after the initial purge, but
Yes.
the Jedi Purge of Vader going through and hunting down the Jedi, that just seems like a slam dunk. It seems like a no-brainer.
It seems like a slam dunk, and it's still, in my opinion, relatively untapped, because
Right.
there has been 2 or 3 Vader comics in that time period that have dealt with killing Jedi, like Jocasta Nu. There's one where he goes after her and gets her and everything, which I was very happy about. And there's been a couple things, but that's comics. Like we always say, we always kind of poo-poo the comics because it's
Right.
like, well, it's just comics. Let's see that in live action. Let's see that even in animated form, whether it's through the Bad Batch or something. Like it's so ripe for novels. It's ripe for series. Even
And it's something that I feel like you don't have to worry about treading on too many toes. You just have to make Vader look like a badass and show
exactly.
his power level, kind of like they did at the end of Rogue One. You just
Yes,
show
and
that.
I was gonna say, I was glad that Disney came out with Jedi Fallen Order 2 years ago because that was in a certain way from a story point of view that was kind of ballsy to go right out the gate and show us 5 years after Revenge of the Sith
Hmm.
the state of the galaxy because we hadn't gotten a really good canon glimpse of things from that time period yet. So that was a cool, and everyone loved that story. And sure enough, there's things from that, like I said, that tie into this, and I think it's going to be great to open up that whole period some more. So,
Yeah. I mean,
and
obviously we're getting to our thoughts about Obi-Wan a little later, or post trailer. We're getting
yeah,
to it a little later than a lot of people did as far as putting videos and podcasts out and all that stuff. But I've seen there have been reports that the series was changed. The story was rewritten because it was a little darker than they wanted initially. I don't know.
I,
I
I,
haven't delved into those articles too much to see how
I,
true they are, but
yeah, I have not heard anything about that aspect of it, but I will say that the Entertainment Weekly article did mention that there was a director contracted to direct the movie version a few years ago. His name was
hmm.
Stephen Daldry. And I looked up it just said his name in the article, nothing else. I looked up his credits on Wikipedia. He directed a couple movies I know the names of, but I'm not familiar. Billy Elliot, he directed The Hours. Those two I know of, and then there's another one from like last year called The Reader. They all
Hmm.
seem, from what I could tell, to be like British dramas. So I don't know if he would have been the greatest choice, but Deborah Chow, who we do know her work from The Mandalorian, who directed some pretty enjoyable episodes. I trust her to do a pretty good job. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was mostly the writer, I think, changed. I don't know how true it is. They were just, I've seen, obviously on social media, there's clickbait headlines about it was supposed to have Maul in it and stuff, but they changed it. This is
I
before
heard,
shooting. This is just when it
yeah,
was still in the writing stage.
I
But
heard clickbait things too, and there's even the rumor of Ray Park again, like being cut off from Disney. That's starting to surface again as a thing, and
yeah,
I think it's entirely clickbait because I've seen no indication, official or otherwise, that Maul was ever supposed to be part of this.
yeah,
Because yeah,
that to me would seem weird,
it would
just in
because the
light of,
focus
well,
is
just in light
Vader.
of Rebels.
Yeah,
You
exactly,
know,
that's the thing, like, Obi-Wan and Maul, their little thread, that was resolved in Rebels, like,
yeah,
7 years down the timeline, so,
yeah.
yeah.
So I don't. Although I do wonder, and I'll wait until after the series um, gets released and everything to look more into, was it supposed to be darker? Because I don't, at this point we don't know how dark it's going to end
Right.
or anything. I mean, I don't how lighthearted could it be, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
But
that's very true, I hope it does stay somewhat dark, but I'm just open to whatever happens, I think it can be difficult, we love to speculate, you and I, but I also try to temper my expectations and go in with as much of a blank slate of mind as possible.
I
So,
just hope that they're able to fix the Inquisitor, the
Inquisitor.
Grand Inquisitor. I know that they can do a lot
I
of
know.
stuff post production, just
Yeah.
elongate the head, and I don't know what were they thinking with
Uh,
that. In
what were they
2005,
thinking?
in
I
2005 they did
I'll
that with
tell you what.
makeup.
I'll tell you what. If Sony could go back and change Sonic the Hedgehog before that movie came out, then
That's
Disney
true.
and ILM.
That's true. I mean, he
So,
was a fully CG character though, but I know what you mean.
yeah,
They
yeah.
they they're able to. do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just so bad. It's
It
just so
is.
bad.
Now, yeah, again, not to speculate too hard, but let's say his scene is only like a few minutes and then we don't see him again outside of that one scene in that one episode. Then that's tolerable, I think.
Yeah,
But
but then
he
it's even less excusable because if he has limited screen time, it's like just spend the resources to fix it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Well,
just so it's
they
almost
need to
like
hire more of these YouTubers that are really good with CG faces fixing all
there's gonna
this
be there's gonna be
random
deep
shit.
fakes. There's gonna be deep fakes that fix this. I don't
Yes.
know. It's just bizarre. It's just a
It's
bizarre
yeah.
gaff.
Well, it's almost like, you know what? To me, it's almost like Phantom Menace Yoda when he was a puppet in the theatrical
You know
version of the
what?
Phantom
You know
Menace.
what? That is an even better example of what they can do versus like the Sonic the Hedgehog thing because that was they were it wasn't CGI to CGI change, you know, they weren't just changing the
Yeah,
CGI element. They were
yeah,
replacing a physical actor. I mean, he was a puppet, but a
right.
physical actor with a fixed CG character.
Yes.
Uh,
And I still have issues with Last Jedi Yoda, even though he was a physical puppet, but that's a whole other thing. I don't need to shit on that anymore.
that is a
But it
rabbit hole we do not need to go down right now
yeah, yeah.
because I have
But
issues with it too, but it's completely different than your issues.
but the whole point is when a character is depicted a certain way first, what and like it's the most impactful first version, just stick to it as much as you can if there's a story reason, like if it's within the same time period. Like, okay, Cad Bane, I can kind of understand because it's like 20 or so years after the Bad Batch and Clone Wars, but we're talking Grand Inquisitor here. This is like 5 years before his death in Rebels season
Um,
ones.
my only issue, I mean, Cad Bane you get away with because it's just the mouth placement. The coloring is fine because he's older. It could just be Duros get old and they start turning gray, you know,
Yeah,
whatever. It's just a mouth placement and
they start turning into Nemoidians.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
Um,
they are related. That was like a kind of retcon thing in
yeah,
the comics. Anyway, that's a whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But
But but it's we know what Powons are supposed to look like in live action. There was a bunch
yeah,
of them in Revenge of the Sith.
yep,
Like,
I
what's going
know.
on? We know what they
And the
look
Grand
like.
Inquisitor in Rebels more or less looked like the one played by Bruce Spence in Revenge of the
Yeah,
Sith.
he was clearly a Powon. He's got the head
Yeah,
ridges and stuff, which I think they show up here
yeah,
In
yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's very
Um,
faint. You can
it's
see
faint, but
the lines,
it's
but
it's because it's you know it's just not super high res and stuff. It's just
yeah,
hard
it's
to
a
see,
smudgy.
but they're
You
there.
know, I wish I've noticed this with other trailers that uh the Star Wars official channel releases. I wish they'd make these really true 1080p like when they release them because some of them are it's decent quality, but it's like kind of smudgy. I don't know. That's just my thought, but
Um, yeah, whatever. It's fine. That's the least of our issues. It's just weird because he's like in the trailer. It's supposed to be like, oh, it's the Grand Inquisitor. You know, he's like shaking
yeah,
down whoever that is in the trailer.
right.
You know, he's all intimidating, but it's like,
It seems like
he's
it's some Jedi, so obviously we're gonna see other Jedi here that are killed.
oh, well, his initial scene looks like it's on Tatooine, and he's probably trying to find Obi-Wan or something. But there's the other scene on the other planet where he's
Yeah.
doing the. Oh, yeah, that was the other thing. Are we gonna see saber copters? Are we gonna see the Inquisitors flying around in saber copters?
Let's hope not.
Yeah.
Let's hope not. I really doubt it. That seems like a very cartoony kind of way. Well, you know what? That seemed like a story reason to get the characters from the bottom of that pyramid quickly up to where Ezra was and with Maul on that like elevator thing.
Uh-huh.
So I think it was just kind of a cheap, quick, like, oh, we need to get
Yes.
these guys up here and
God forbid
you
they,
know.
use the force leap.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
don't know.
know.
I don't know.
Well,
Whatever.
maybe there's a
Anyway,
limit to Force Leap. I mean, Obi-Wan jumped pretty high from the platform in the Phantom Menace, but probably to leap the height of a pyramid might take insane amount of power out of me.
Whatever. We again, we don't need to get into that because, but
No, that's a whole other thing.
yeah, I mean, looking at I don't know. Looking at his two appearances in the trailer, he he looks like a Padawan with Down syndrome. That's how it comes off to me. He looks like he's got some genetic issue versus he
Yeah.
should just have the elongated head and the Sith eye thing too. Who did this not pass over someone's desk that like gave a shit? You know what I mean?
It's Kathleen Kennedy's fault.
No, it's
No, I'm just being funny.
But
I don't know.
I just don't understand. I just don't understand.
No, I don't get it either.
This had to, it had to go through. It's got to be fixed. This has got to be like, oh, that we always planned on doing this in.
Jason, I would bet money it won't be fixed because I know how these
Okay,
things
here we go. So when the movies would come out, like the prequels and the sequels and stuff, we'd always sit down and give our predictions for certain things. Let's do that for Kenobi. I think this is a good time to do that. We'll finish up on predictions. Do you have any predictions for Kenobi, or do you want to make any guesses or predictions or hopes?
I do have some, but I want to collate my ideas better before I mention them on the podcast.
Okay. So we'll
maybe
hold off.
Next episode or right before Obi-Wan, we'll have a list.
That sounds good. Okay, now specifically, I will say, I'll bet they'll fix the Grand Inquisitor in post. I think that they always intended on, we're going to film with the actor's comfort in mind. So we're not going to put a big like head piece on them, and we're not going to make them wear contacts or anything. We'll fix it all in post. And this is just post-production work because they got the makeup and everything right. They just need to stretch his head.
Which they'll then put on a teaser trailer that has 7 million views within a few days.
Look, I know I'm the pessimist. I'm the Siskel to your Ebert, but I'm going to go out on a limb and try to be optimistic. Okay, so my prediction is they will fix this in post, and they always intended on fixing it. Yours is to say they're not going to fix it.
I'm cynical because there's so many things that should have been fixed in the past that weren't. Or
That's true.
It was like 2 versions later, like Lucas fixing the Vader's lightsaber on the Death Star. It was like the DVD version was the first one to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
yeah, the weird color issue with lightsabers. Okay, so I think they'll fix it. You think they won't? I hope they do. I hope I'm right, because otherwise it's going to be really bad.
But yeah, I think summed up everything I wanted to say about the Obi-Wan trailer, and we'll have more thoughts on this in the coming weeks. And yeah, anything else you wanted to mention?
No. I hope it's good. I say that about everything, and usually I'm disappointed, but I just and that's not necessarily with Star Wars. It's like everything, Matrix, all these things, all these IP franchises that keep crapping out reboots and new movies and stuff. I always say, I hope it's good. 9 times out of 10, I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
I hope that Obi-Wan Kenobi's good. That's all I can say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the cup is usually half full for me, and by and large, I'm easy to please. As amazing as that is, as detail-oriented as I can be, I have an amazing ability to just let stuff. I mean, for God's sakes, I enjoyed The Last Jedi a lot in a lot of ways, and the same with Rise of Skywalker. Doesn't mean they're not flawed turds in a lot of ways, but I still like the good things, and I just tune out the bad as best I can. So on that note, hope everyone enjoyed this latest podcast episode. Remember to check us out on YouTube at Star Wars Unfiltered. We're also on Facebook. Look for the Star Wars Unfiltered page, which I've been posting more there, thankfully, because the algorithm has helped me out. And then also check us out on Instagram. And if you have any questions or comments, remember, Star Wars Unfiltered at yahoo.com. And we're also some year, we're going to get that Twitter up and running. But it'll still mostly just be promoting the YouTube channel where we have our lore play commentaries. Battlefront 2 is still in the midst of going up, and yeah, I hope everyone's been enjoying that lately. So, until then, check out everything next episode, and may the Force be with you.
Good night.
What?